Good morning, freedom fighters. It is 7:39 a.m. East Coast time, June 6th, 2025. Some very heavy storms going across Oklahoma this morning. Daytime heating is no longer required since it's in the 60s. Even if I've never seen any of this technology, I look like a tornado in that area. I hope everybody's safe. Even if I have never seen any of this technology patents, the radar imaging looks very suspicious, in my opinion. These have very powerful energy beams going through it. Why is that? Right where it looks like the tornado is happening. I don't even know if there is a tornado. It just looks very heavy. Zoom in on it a little bit more. I want to go over to fires in Canada that started on the 4th. There is ships in the Pacific Ocean pumping out smoke to create a new weather system out there as well. These beams are not necessary to see the rain. What is going on here? Look at that red section. I want to pause on that. And let it play one more time here. All right, let's pause as this goes here. Major flash of beams. See this red section? See a beam shooting through it? This purple section? Another beam shooting through it. Very suspicious area for a tornadic. And I showed the patents on all this stuff, whether they want to admit to them or not. There is patents for these devices. Look at that. That is incredible beam of some kind of energy in an area that looks tornadic. Somebody said these are devices to control the weather, but they're here to help us. But I think that is the complete opposite of what's going on. Then the next storm's coming in with the same kind of energy coming in. Poor guys in Oklahoma, it has just been one storm after another while Florida's going through a drought. And when we get rain, it doesn't seem like it's filling up the ponds any. It just evaporates away. Major energy waves there. Sorry, I paused it too long there. But what do y'all think? Do you believe these next reds are creating these very intense storms? I do, for sure. I'm going to show you the patent. Okay, these are U.S. patents filed in 2011 or 2001. There it is, 2001. What's funny? It's the same ripples we're seeing in the radar system. And here is House bill in 2001 trying to stop the weapons that are going up in space. U.S. Congress here, and the chemtrails are mentioned as well. HARP is mentioned. The laser weapons are mentioned. Here's Florida trying to stop it going in place this year, which will do no good because we do not enforce the laws at 60,000 feet. Here's Tennessee banning the same practice. It did no good. This went in last year. There is so many patents on of them trying to do rain, and I see these towers everywhere. Of course, it's not going to come up. Be glitchy. Why not? We see these towers all over our country, covered with all kinds of technologies. Weather controlling satellites, NextRad, seeding systems, targeted area, vehicles with the systems. You can go through the numbers and read all about this stuff and what these things are. weather modification programs, status active, went in 2018, the year of the pandemic, in my opinion. It was supposed to come out at the end of that year, but they delayed it for 12 months. The archive of the weather modification with the Air Force owning the weather from 1996, stating they will own the weather by 2025, cannot be reached all of a sudden. Excuse me. It just messed me up there. I wanted to show you that archive. Took too long to respond. Yeah, it's still not responding. Before we get to the ships that's in the Pacific Ocean, major chemtrail operation right this minute. Wendy has updated and it's really weird now. That was in Canada. Here's one that's offshore of DC, New York, Atlantic City. Very distinct trails. They're playing with our technology here. I don't know what this future forecast is, but it's garbage. It ain't going to show too much on the trails there. Some of the heaviest lightning we've ever seen in Oklahoma at this minute. See what it looks like in 12 hours since they re-updated everything here. Watch it as sunsets, but no, gonna glitch out, ain't it? We can see the lightning, but not the clouds. Hopefully it'll reset here. I don't know. Yeah, they got it going so fast now. They shorten their time frame up. And the pause ain't gonna work. It sucks they're messing with our technology. I just want y'all to know they're laughing at us. They're creating these storms while they lie to you on the TV. Very dangerous situation. I hope everybody's okay. I want to go over to fires after this, but here's live in the Pacific Ocean offshore of California. I can see chemtrail operation off Oregon, but there is ships. Even up here looks like they may be a ship or two, but here's where the main concentration of ships, super tankers pumping out smoke. Each one of these lines is an individual ship. Every single line you see here is an individual ship hiding in the fog bank. Let's go back 2 days. They were out here for at least 2 days. Move it hourly. Right before sunrise on the 4th, you can see them very clearly. A chemtrail or something there. Yeah, that's a chemtrail. Hardly everybody see the chemtrails that low. Very low chemtrail looks like. Ah, it's a shadow it's picking up. Never seen that. But right now there's chemtrail activity, ships as well as they're spraying stuff in the atmosphere. You can see more chemtrail activity as the sun is coming up. Major operations, my friend. It takes ships, aircraft, weather controlling satellites, HARP 5G HARP towers they call cell phone towers. Harder to see through the daylight, so I'm going to bump it ahead, but they just keep pumping it out even through the daylight hours. You can see hints of their lines, smoke trails. Chemtrail there. As dark comes along, I can really see hints of them still up here, but major trails of ships that's just not going anywhere, doing loops in the ocean. Each one of these are a ship pumping out smoke. It's insane. Come out here and do a loop to the north, looks like. They're all going to the north. That one's going to the north. That one is. This one came around, or he's going back this way, maybe. Let's see which way he's going. I would say this one's going that way. It's crazy. I know it. This sounds insane, but we have the pictures of these vessels. Super tankers pumping out smoke. These two are individual burners. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel some of these vessels can have aboard, and they're a dime a dozen to these rich corporations that's making billions of dollars a day doing this. Most likely taxpayers' money hitting projects. Obviously, Greenpeace knows about these vessels. This one here only has one of the two pots burning. Ocean brightening is what it's called, but another one is called ocean fertilization that is creating red tides in Gulf of America, or Mexico, if you will, in my opinion. They destroyed every law protecting our Gulf. Now the oil tycoons have full control over the Gulf of America now. Change the name of the place. You destroyed all the laws protecting it. The exact same goes for these aircraft that they buy and pump out the smoke with. Chemicals, aluminum, barium, and strontium. There's plenty of pictures of the chemtrail aircraft. They come in many different forms. People are like, oh, that's just for ballast so they can figure out these aircraft. No, this is a 737, looks like, with no seats. Much larger aircraft here. We have plenty of photos of their aircrafts in operation. These are the jokes that they show you. Flares on aircraft, that's a joke. Here's a real ballast system that they're maybe testing for weights. Has no lines, no pipes, no computer components. These have computer components. These are spraying chemicals. See the computers that works everything. There's no switch. There's no chemtrail switch. It's all computer driven from a main database, most likely. These are ballast tanks. These are chemtrail operations, and this is a joke with the flares. The chemtrail aircraft is much different than the ballast tanks. Computer driven wire systems to release the chemicals at certain times. And these chemicals probably have different names because I swear they're mixing them in the back of the aircraft. See how they're two different colors? I was removed from Twitter because I showed the hurricane makers in action creating Milton. Here's just a couple of them. They come in many forms. And the last time this one was seen was in Key West that I heard of right before the storm started. Self-propelled. It's a monster. I got a video of the eye forming before a storm did, and we wonder why. The lady here done a great job. I don't know her or anything. She's on like Twitter or Instagram or something. But exactly what she says is why we cannot stop this madness with them spraying our sky.
May have seen these state bans on don't work, and this is why. 0 to 400 feet up, state and local rights do exist, but are limited. The FAA has primary jurisdiction that the state cannot override. 400 to 60,000 feet up is purely federal jurisdiction. And above that is a gray area due to international law being unclear, but our FAA maintains oversight. Above 328,000 feet, while this is international airspace, no nation has jurisdiction above that altitude. The point is, all trailing practices occur outside of state jurisdiction. While states can create rules about activities in airspace, they cannot override the FAA. Airspace is federal, not local. Even still, I encourage states to ban this practice because, well, for one, there are many seating activities that are done directly from the ground that we can stop. And secondly, state bans are great because, well, we need to take as much power at a local level as possible to bring awareness to the practice. But again, if we are to genuinely put an end to this, we need a federal ban, not just on trails, but on modified radar activity. I do a show every single day covering radar activity, as well as satellite reviews of the entire world, and since doing this, one pattern has become abundantly clear. When the zippity zip zaps are here, suspicious illnesses, record-breaking tornadoes, hail, fires, floods, droughts, storms of all kinds appear.
I must say, she is doing an excellent job. I wish she was on YouTube. I've never done Instagram. The truth is painful, and that was painful to hear, but it is the truth. There is no stopping these lunatics. Okay, my friends that are still here with us, I want to go over something I didn't know much about till recently. I knew of eugenics, and I think Elon's parents was a big influencer of eugenics. Let me know if you ever heard of this story. I'm going to do the PBS, Public Broadcasting Services, first, and then I want to go to Forgotten History and do theirs on Margaret Sanger. You want to look into the eyes of evil. Planned Parenthood isn't what it was, what it really played out to be, is it? The evils they've done to us the entire time. And I was an only child out of 5 or 6 pregnancies my mother had, and I believe she was given medicine by the doctors that created miscarriages. Every one of them was a miscarriage. And my twin also was a miscarriage that died like 5 months into the pregnancy. And I was the one that survived. She called me her miracle baby. Obviously, non-identical twin. But there was always a piece of me missing. But watch how they tried to sterilize the people. This is a heartbreaking series of all my videos are heartbreaking anymore. Oh, I forgot to go over the fires. Hang on 1 minute. Sorry for being so raw, but I think that's why some of you like what I do. Okay, before we get to the eugenics insanity, we're back on the 4th of June, 2 days ago, around noon our time. Massive fires started in British Columbia from nothing. I just wanted to show you how extreme they really were. Here, I mean, these are massive fires, man. Start it over one more time. You can see this one, all of these started at the same exact time, look like. Whole line of fires. There's the third one here. Another one there, looks like 4 or 5. Here's another giant one. Before dark, they were massive. Sun's just so bright right there. Northern hemisphere, everything's super bright, the angle of it. Why we have summer right now in the northern hemisphere. I just want to show that to you. Let's go back to the video I was planning. Sorry, I'm so raw. I had forgotten the fire segment. I did not want to leave them massive fires out. Hell on earth is nothing new. These elites has been trying to breed us out and sterilize us from the beginning. Watch this incredible video from public broadcast.
The anxieties about urbanization, about unlettered, untutored, relatively uneducated peoples coming in large numbers, the sense that disease was a problem, all of these worries were amalgamated into a belief that immigrants caused these problems, and thus immigration should be held down.
Many white Protestant Americans came to fear they were about to be outnumbered and outbred by the newcomers and their offspring, that they were being replaced. They embraced a new pseudoscience born in Britain called Eugenics, which falsely claimed, with no evidence, that everything from poverty to prostitution, disabilities to what they called feeble-mindedness, could be eliminated if the individuals they dismissed as socially defective could be stopped from reproducing.
I wish very much that the wrong people could be prevented entirely from breeding. And when the evil nature of these people is sufficiently flagrant, this should be done. Criminals should be sterilized, and feeble-minded persons forbidden to leave offspring behind them. Theodore Roosevelt.
The idea was that the bad people have to stop reproducing, and the good people need to reproduce more. Negative eugenics says sterilize the wrong people, snuff them out. And that's the eugenics that the Nazis would pick up on.
Colleges and universities taught eugenics. Medical societies confirmed it. Clergymen preached it. John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie funded it. And some of the most prominent people in America championed it. Margaret Sanger, Alexander Graham Bell, even Helen Keller.
It seems to me that the simplest, wisest thing to do would be to submit cases like that of the malformed idiot baby to a jury of expert physicians. If the evidence were presented openly and the decisions made public before the death of the child, there would be little danger of mistakes or abuses. We must decide between a fine humanity and a cowardly sentimentalism.
33 of the 48 states would eventually enact eugenics laws mandating the forced sterilization of wards of the state deemed physically or mentally unfit. People in prisons, hospitals, and asylums. More than 60,000 Americans would be sterilized without their consent before the last of these statutes was removed from the books in 2014. Eugenics also provided a racist rationale for those convinced immigration needed to be drastically curtailed.
The man of the old stock is being crowded out of many country districts by these foreigners, just as he is today being literally driven off the streets of New York City by the swarms of Polish Jews. These immigrants adopt the language of the American. They wear his clothes, they steal his name, and they are beginning to take his women. But they seldom adopt his religion or understand his ideals. And while he's being elbowed out of his own home, the American looks calmly abroad and urges on others the suicidal ethics which are exterminating his own race. Madison Grant.
Madison Grant was a widely admired conservationist, a friend of presidents, a founder of the Bronx Zoo, responsible in part for saving the California redwoods and preserving the buffalo, and instrumental in creating Glacier, Denali, and Everglades national parks.
And he was also a violent anti-Semite and a violent anti-Italian. And he really was horrified by what he saw happening on the streets of New York. So he publishes a book called The Passing of the Great Race, in which he puts forward the idea that nationalities have eugenic characteristics. He fills it with all sorts of interesting historical so-called data, which is mostly crazy, but it's very persuasive. And it does give the anti-immigration movement, it suddenly gives them science. Science says if we let them in, then they're going to destroy the American gene pool.
For Grant and many others, Jews were a distinct race, not considered white, dismissed as uncouth Asiatics. Grant's supposedly scientific claims about a rigid hierarchy of races was ludicrous. The biological notion of race itself is a fiction. But his ideas caught the imagination of those Americans already opposed to immigration.
People tended to increasingly view nationalities as if they were breeds or species. To liken nationalities to breeds was a fundamental categorical mistake.
Hi, I'm Sarah Botstein. Thanks for watching that excerpt from our film, The U.S. and the Holocaust, which explores the story of how the American people grappled with one of the greatest humanitarian crises of the 20th century. Here are some more clips from the film, and you can watch the entire series on the PBS Video app or at pbs.org.
Okay, my friends, before I play the next one, I had a few comments on the last one I wanted to put in. When the white Americans was worried about their country being taken over, what do we think the native people that was here beforehand? And as I am Norwegian mostly, but I have Irish, German, Dutch, Cherokee. My blood is filled with the race, as they call it. But the only race that I know is the human race. And they have divided us into a million pieces. But I want you to see this lady and what she stood for and why the Nazis loved her so much. And they still do today. Thank you for everybody that is paying attention and watching this video. Really sad what must have happened in our past. The evil ones are very, very evil. Like we can't even understand. It really breaks my heart to see what these people are done to people. Commercial Fisherman standing by. I hope y'all enjoy this insane knowledge and get something out of it. Don't trust whatever's going to happen next.
Mrs. Margaret Slee, president of America's Planned Parenthood Federation, maintains that European women should stop having babies for the next 10 years.
But Mrs. Slee, in this country, having babies is the only thing left which is both unrationed and untaxed. Do you think we really ought to stop?
Well, I suppose a subject like that is really so personal that it's entirely up to the parents to decide. But from my view, I believe that there should be no more babies.
The term eugenics is basically a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of a human population. Historically, by excluding people and groups judged to be inferior and promoting those judged to be superior. There have been various applications of eugenics, perhaps the most famous being the Germans before and during World War II, which was condemned by the Nuremberg war crimes trials. But the Germans did not invent eugenics. In fact, they were inspired by the founder of the taxpayer-funded Planned Parenthood. The truth behind the genesis of that organization and its founder are much darker than most Americans realize. Who was the real Margaret Sanger? Why was she heralded by the Third Reich as the greatest socialist in America? Why do modern Democrats who claim to support the African American population justify presenting her as a cultural icon?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, a veteran of the United States Army and Marine Corps, former history professor, book author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Margaret Sanger was born on September 14, 1879 in Corning, New York. She is an icon to left-wing groups due to her founding of Planned Parenthood in October 1916 with her sister Ethel Byrne and Fanny Mendel, which was the first birth control clinic in Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. 9 days later, the police raided the clinic and arrested all the people involved for promoting birth control, which was illegal. Sanger refused to pay the fine and spent 30 days in jail. She then traveled the country preaching her concepts. Sanger then founded the American Birth Control League in 1921. Sanger also endorsed the 1927 decision Buck v. Bell, in which the Supreme Court ruled that states could forcibly sterilize people deemed unfit without their consent and sometimes without their knowledge. This American law would be the major defense at Nuremberg for the Nazi defendants who were doctors practicing Sanger's methods, and many would be found not guilty as a result of this defense. In 1939, Sanger began what was called the Negro Project, alongside black leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary McLeod Bethune, and Reverend Adam Clayton Powell. This was the plan to have black doctors performing on black patients, to perpetuate the sterilization of blacks who were deemed inferior, as many black patients were suspicious of white doctors. Following upon Sanger's eugenics platform, disguised as giving women access to birth control, the ABCL became Planned Parenthood Federation of America in 1942, after birth control was no longer considered illegal, at least among married couples. During this period, Sanger had critics and supporters. The supporters even today claim that she condemned abortion, arguing that it would not be needed if every woman had access to birth control. What they leave out is that Sanger only opposed abortions if that meant not producing the best, healthiest, most intelligent from Caucasian couples. For blacks, Jews, and brown-skinned people, as well as low IQ white people and those with birth defects, they were not to be allowed. This was what the Nazis adopted. Ironically, in 1966, Planned Parenthood began issuing its Margaret Sanger Awards annually to honor individuals of distinction in recognition of excellence and leadership in furthering reproductive health and reproductive rights. However, the organization very quietly and without any fanfare stopped this practice as Black Lives Matter rose to prominence. It would have been seen as the height of hypocrisy to have a liberal-backed domestic terror group that attacked white America connected to Sanger, a Democrat darling who wanted to exterminate blacks. In fact, the last recipient of the award listed on the website is Dr. Willie Parker in 2015. Then it just quietly disappeared. Parker was an abortionist known for his contentious claims that his Christian faith influenced his work. He was accused of sexual assault in 2019, which he denied, but he still resigned from all of his professional positions in 2020. Other recipients of the Margaret Sanger Award include House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and actresses Jane Fonda and Katharine Hepburn. Margaret Sanger was one of the few women to be given an honorific title and inducted into the Ku Klux Klan, and exalted by none other than Adolf Hitler and Dr. Joseph Goebbels. She was friends with the racist Democratic President Woodrow Wilson, Democratic fundraiser, and automobile maker Henry Ford, who was also friends with Adolf Hitler and a rabid anti-Semite and hater of black Americans. Margaret Sanger's rabid racism, anti-Semitism, and violent suggestions on eliminating all non-whites from American society endeared her to the eugenics crowd. She wanted an all-white, healthy, intelligent society built upon the concept of racial eradication years before Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party were even a thought. In 1934, the Nazi Party adopted her radical positions, with Goebbels saying, "Margaret Sanger is the best National Socialist in America." In fact, the September 15, 1935 Nuremberg laws classified races according to an insane chart drafted by Dr. Wilhelm Stuckart and Dr. Friedrich Kritzinger. The official name was the Reich Citizenship Law and the Law for the Protection of German Blood and German Honor. These laws embodied many of the racial theories underpinning Nazi ideology, which they adapted from Margaret Sanger. These laws could provide the legal framework for the systematic persecution of Jews in Germany, who at that time were deemed a race and not a religion, and the eugenics behind them were taken from the world of Sanger. In fact, her theories and opinions influenced men like SS Captain Dr. Josef Mengele, the Beast of Auschwitz, and his associates, Dr. Karl Klauberg, Dr. Hertha Oberhäuser, Hitler's personal physician Dr. Karl Brandt, just to name a few. When Hitler authorized the Action T4 euthanasia program to murder the handicapped, mentally ill, and other undesirables from German society, the doctors and nurses were given the program directly from Margaret Sanger's own philosophy. On August 18, 1939, the Reich Ministry of the Interior circulated a decree requiring all physicians, nurses, and midwives to report newborn infants and children under the age of 3 who showed signs of severe mental or physical disability. The man who started the program was Dr. Karl Brandt, and they were disguised as children's clinics and advertised that they would treat their abnormalities and infirmities. In fact, They were death centers, where the children were quietly killed and the cause of death misrepresented as by other means, such as pneumonia, tuberculosis, etc. Dr. Brandt himself claimed that Sanger's methods were most effective and, if performed correctly, are ingenious. In Sanger's own words, she peddled racism, eugenics, contraception, abortion, while demonstrating a visceral hatred for children, parenthood, marriage, and the Catholic Church. The following quotes are directly from Margaret Sanger's own writings and interviews. 1. The most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. 2. A marriage license shall in itself give husband and wife only the right to a common household and not the right of parenthood. 3. All of our problems are the result of overbreeding among the working class. Knowledge of birth control is essentially moral. Its general, though prudent, practice must lead to a higher individuality and ultimately to a cleaner race. 4. Blacks, soldiers, and Jews are a menace to the human race. 5. The masses of Negroes, particularly in the South, still breed carelessly and disastrously, with the result that the increase among Negroes, even more than among whites, is from that portion of the population least intelligent and fit. 6. Birth control appeals to the advanced radical because it is calculated to undermine the authority of the Christian churches. I look forward to seeing humanity free someday of the tyranny of Christianity, no less than capitalism. 7. Every single case of inherited defect, every malformed child, every congenitally tainted human being brought into this world is of infinite importance to that poor individual. But it is scarcely less important to the rest of us and to all of our children who must pay in one way or another for these biological and racial mistakes. 8. It now remains for the United States government to set a sensible example to the world by offering a bonus or a yearly pension to all obviously unfit parents who allow themselves to be sterilized by harmless and scientific means. Margaret Sanger, the woman heralded by the Democrats and left-wing ideologues in the United States for her positions on women's reproductive rights, always failed to include her genocidal positions on ethnic cleansing. She died on September 6, 1966 in Tucson, Arizona. But Margaret Sanger was not alone. The late Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said in a New York Times interview, "Frankly, I had thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of." In Elle magazine, Ginsburg also stated that poor people should have ready access to abortions because it makes no sense as a national policy to promote birth only among poor people. In 2015, out of $1.29 billion in total revenue, $553.7 million came from the government reimbursing Planned Parenthood for their services. In 2020, Planned Parenthood performed 383,460 abortions, the highest number of abortions it has yet reported, and an increase of nearly 28,600 from the previous year. And in the United States, the abortion rate for black women is almost 5 times that for white women. In July 2020, Planned Parenthood quietly removed Margaret Sanger's name from its headquarters in Manhattan, New York. Obviously, the times had caught up with Margaret Sanger.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please click like, subscribe, and share. Send us comments and show ideas, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time.
They did a great job. I believe she had 2 children of her own. So confused why people could be like that. I don't have any children. Their abortion thing got mine without my permission. So many deaths, so much potential. What could have been. But back to reality, or not reality, but present reality. There is super tankers in the Pacific Ocean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I don't know if I counted that one. 19 ships at least pumping out material. Aircraft as well, and it's not even breaking daylight yet. You can see aircraft trails. Thank you to everyone that is listening to my voice, as it is breaking daylight in Texas now, and it has been daylight quite a while in Florida. The curvature is very distinct. Like a really good video in Tampa, Florida, that shows the curvature very easily. We're trying to look through at looking at skyscrapers from Skyway Bridge. You can really see the curvature easily. Not an optical illusion. This goes out of sight. There's floods happening around the world, fires happening around the world. Russia is on fire. I wonder why my fire thing. Yeah, I got you. Oh. Quite a few chemtrails in Russia. There were a lot of fires in this area, but I don't see the fires so much. But there was very heavy chemtrails in the head of this weather system. 1, 2, 3. And you can see this multiples 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least chemtrails. So they chemtrail everywhere. I don't know if they finally got some of their fires out. Canada's on fire, man. It says a third of Canada's on fire. Hundreds of thousands of acres. At 1,100,000 acres. Just millions and millions of acres. We looked at, oh wow, look at all the chemtrails. The chemtrails are very flammable, like I showed in my last videos, or a couple videos there. Each one of these lines is an aircraft trail. Spray it with flammable material, then light it on fire, see what happens. Million-acre fires, that's what happens. Yeah, they definitely flared back up there. Thank you to the Warriors, chemtrails. I have some good friends in Canada. I mean, I dated a Canadian for 15 years. I still very much care for them. Smoking out the sun. I mean, yeah. Putting out the sun in every way they can. Two storms forming beside each other. Can only imagine what they're doing here. I mean, I could just go on for hours with this stuff. They just had a storm, and now they're going to have two more. Is that what all these ships up here are for? Everybody be safe in these storms. We never know who's going to be lit on fire next, who's going to be flooded next, the next tornado, the next hurricane. I already see we're going to have several this year in Florida. Of course, they know what's going to happen. They're going to do it. I see ships in the Atlantic Ocean at times as well. Everybody stay safe. Hug your loved ones. Stay prepared. Look at heavy ripples in South Africa. Yeah, that's not normal. How long does those ripples stay there? For days? All right, that's the 4th. I was going to let you go, but hang on 1 second. The 5th. Huh, that's a video by itself right there. The clouds that will not go away. That is the machine on in Africa. No longer on a blue planet. We're on a gray, white, poisonous fishbowl. Commercial Fisherman standing by. Hope you understand why I make these videos. I'm just trying to show the evil ones at work. Commercial Fisherman out.